is representing Erin Dalton, and Jorge Fanjul is representing Deputy Mayor Helen Arteaga Landaverde, both in a voting capacity. So, according to Article 6, Section C of the bylaws, committee appointment, the chair of the board shall annually appoint with approval of a majority of the board, members of the board to the standing committees. Therefore, I would like to propose a motion to appoint Dr. Alistair Martin as a member of the Executive Committee and Erin Dalton as a member of the Executive Committee, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, and Capital Committees. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. So next on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes for the Board of Directors meeting held on February 26, 2026. Are there any questions, comments, or suggested changes? Can I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. So during the executive session, the board received and approved NYC Health and Hospitals medical staff credentialing, initial appointments, reappointments, and changes of privileges for the month of March 2026. During the executive session, the board received and approved Maimonides and Midwood staff credentialing, initial appointments which shall be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025, the ATA, between NYC Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., together with its affiliates and subsidiaries. The board received and approved oral and written governing body reports from NYC Health and Hospitals Gouverneur, Skilled Nursing Facility, and Kohler Long-Term Care and Rehab Facility. The board also received and approved the written submission of the semi-annual governing body reports from NYC Health and Hospitals Seaview. Just an announcement on the upcoming meetings. Please note, mark your calendars for the upcoming Board of Directors annual public meetings for fiscal year 2026. These meetings will begin at 6 p.m. on the following dates and locations. So we have one in the Bronx, Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 at Lincoln. And in Brooklyn, it will be Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 at Woodhall. And Staten Island will be Tuesday, June 16th at Seaview. Okay, let me move on to Vendex approvals. Since we began the process of approving contracts prior to Vendex approvals, there are 5 items on today's agenda requiring Vendex approval, 3 of which have that approval. However, there are 11 items from previous board meetings pending Vendex approval. We will continue to notify the board as outstanding Vendex approvals are received. So now we'll move to an informational item. Now we will have a presentation of the January 2027 financial plan. James?
Good afternoon, everyone. James Cassidy. I'm joined today by Cliff Chen, our Director of Finance. We're here to present our January 2027 financial plan, which we published in conjunction with the city earlier in March, and we are bringing it to the board as an informational item. Dr. Katz and John also had a presentation in front of the City Council, their hearing earlier this month as well on the plan. The plan, I think there were a lot of changes since we last published in May of 2025 on a cash basis that we had to take into account. I think the biggest thing was we did our normal annual baseline estimate and revenue re-estimates, while also bringing into account the average commercial rate state-directed payment approvals that we've talked about at previous board meetings, and the impact of HR 1, the federal reconciliation bill that passed in July. But of course, we've also talked about the negative impacts of that. In terms of what that all kind of meant, it was a mixed bag between the good and the bad, but we are projecting a strong positive operating income for fiscal year 26, the fiscal year ending June 30th, of $341 million. That's a little over $350 million better than when we last published in May. The reason behind this is our anticipated receipt of average commercial rate state-directed payment dollars going back to July 1st of 2024. So on a cash basis, there's a lot of retro dollars we'll receive, and the state-directed payment at the average commercial rate is a far more advantageous supplemental Medicaid revenue stream at this time compared to what we were previously projecting and receiving, which was a UPL conversion, which was closer to the Medicare rate for the same services. And you can see over the life of the plan, the ACR revenue is going to bring in close to $12 billion as opposed to we were projecting closer to $7 billion for the UPL conversion. While we look forward to the out years, we also are projecting positive operating income in fiscal year 27. And then we start to see losses, which are not uncommon in the later out years of the plan, not only because of sort of our need to cover continued expenses, but also we start to see the large impacts of HR1 in those later years. All the same, this plan is an improvement over our last plan. Over the life of the plan, we are projecting to be about $500 million better over this period than our projections in 2025. So that's obviously great to see, and it's not only because of things like the average commercial rate, but obviously the continued implementation of our proactive efforts on our internal strategic initiatives. And then finally, just to go into a little more detail on HR1, itself, there's big changes as it relates to the essential plan and Medicaid. Because we published this earlier in March, this was prior to some of the good news the governor recently announced as it relates to the reversion to the basic health plan. So we were not incorporating all of those things into our financial plan when we next update it in the executive budget. We will make those adjustments. So the news will be slightly better than this, but all the same, there are, of course, a lot of risks related not only to HR1 in general, but specific to the essential plan, specifically Essential Plan 5. So when you look at both the issues with the essential plan, with Medicaid, as well as with our average commercial rate state-directed payment getting reduced over time down to Medicare over several years, we are expecting that it ramps up to essentially $600 million a year annually in losses associated with patient care prior to factoring in some sort of offsets that come in. So that's obviously extremely substantial. So, all the same, I think we feel confident about where we are. We'll obviously continue to take efforts to maintain a stable position on a cash basis. And I think that's our presentation. If there are any questions, we're happy to take them.
I just want to say, I think this is really, we're accustomed to seeing out years and gaps, but just the efforts that you guys have made in the light of all of the headwinds with HR1, I mean, the financial plan being better, a testament to really advocating for the ACR and working on the different strategic initiatives to keep the expense growth in line. So I'm happy to see that despite all of the challenges, the financial plan in January is still sustainable.
Thank you for that, Frida. And yes, we agree.
Okay, any other questions? Or thank you for the report and the update. Thank you. So I'm going to move now to action items. So number 7 in your agenda, authorizing the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a contract with Richard Plumbing, the contractor, to undertake a fire pump and standpipe replacement at NYC Health and Hospitals Bellevue to replace aging infrastructure past its useful life, ensure compliance with NYC Building Code and National Fire Protection Association standards, and enhance facility safety for a contract amount of $10,829,338 with a 10% project contingency of $1,082,933 to bring the total cost not to exceed to $11,912,271 for an anticipated duration of 12 months, and this is being presented directly to the board today.
Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Pagan and Dr. Katz. I'm Manny Saiz from the Department of Office Facilities Development. I'm joined today by Irfan Karim, Chief Operating Officer for Bellevue, and Young Lead, our Capital Development Lead for Bellevue. With that, I'll hand it over to Karim, who will start us in the presentation.
Yes, so in terms of the background, the fire pump and the standpipe at New York City Health and Hospitals Bellevue is original to the building, and which means it was built in 1970, so 56 years, and it is past life expectancy. So we are due for existing pump capacity, or due to the existing pump capacity and a crack in the impeller, the system is unable to pass the annual flow test required by New York City Buildings Code, as well as does not meet the criteria for the NFPA standards. Next slide, please. So these are the pictures of what a fire pump looks like. This is the existing fire pump, and if we move forward, you'll see. And we have pictures of what it will look like once it's completed and updated.
Okay, thank you. So the overview of the procurement on November 12th, 2025, it was posted to City Record. November 12th, 2025, and November 13th, 2025, site tour was conducted, 17 contractors attended. On January 28th, 2026, bids were due with 3 bids received. And on February 18th, 2026, the determination of the low finalized bidder, Richards Plumbing, was selected to be the responsible party. Next slide, please. The procurement was sourced via public bid. The contract amount is $10,829,338. Richards Plumbing is the mechanical plumbing contractor that was previously a Jocks contractor with an excellent rating for work they had completed. Construction is expected to begin in Q3 of 2026, with the completion expected in Q3 of 2027, a duration of 12 months. Richards Plumbing has committed to the 30% MWBE goal, and the list of vendors are there for a variety of tasks, including HVAC work, electrical work, etc. And this is the project budget. The construction is 10.8 million with a contingency of $1,082,933, bringing the total cost to $11,912,271. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Okay, so let's take it up for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sally?
Sure. I didn't realize we were having this, but I'll do it. All right, authorizing the Executive Director of Metro Plus Health Plan, Metro Plus of the plan, to execute contracts with 4 law firms to provide legal services on an as-needed basis for Metro Plus. The firms are Greenberg, Traub, Hinman Straub, PC, Scher, Tremont LLP, and Tarter, Krinsky, and Drogan LLP. The contracts shall be for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year options, each solely exercisable by Metro Plus for a cumulative amount not to exceed $2.5 million for a total 5-year contract.
Hello, everybody. It's Steve Stein Cushman, Chief Counsel at Metro Plus. We are seeking legal firms to provide outside counsel services for us. Our current contracts expire on March 31st in about 5 days. We procured these vendors through an RFP that was issued in September, and we selected 4 firms: Greenberg Traurig, who is an incumbent vendor, Hinman Straub, Scher Tremonte, and Tarter Krinsky. We're looking for $2.5 million for a total of 5 years. That will spread across all 4 contracts. For some history here, in 2021, H&H Board authorized legal services contracts for $2 million for the 5 years. The total spend under those has been $1.65 million. Demonstrates that the authorization was not a goal for us to reach, but we used it as we needed throughout the time period. The increase in authorization is almost entirely related to the increase in hourly rates. Law firms have gone up since 2021. And the Metro Plus Health Board did approve this resolution earlier today at the board meeting. Next slide. So the firms as a whole are selected to provide specialized legal services in the Medicaid and in the managed care world. It could be, basically it's everything that we need outside counsel for that we don't do in-house, that we don't receive from H&H Legal, who does handle a lot of our labor and EEO type stuff, or from the New York City Law Department. It's going to be a lot of counseling for managed care, a lot of regulatory requirements, provider and vendor contracting, and it could also include litigation. Certainly we haven't had any False Claims Act, and hopefully that will continue, but to the extent that we have any litigation, we would use them as well. We will work with the firms according to their expertise. Greenberg Traurig will continue to serve as our primary day-to-day counsel. We'll use the other firms as issues arise. There's no guarantee for any of them, so we'll only use them on an as-needed basis. They largely break down into 2 firms which specialize in more of the counseling and the regulatory compliance, and 2 firms are really litigation firms. Greenberg Traurig, Hinman, and Straub being the 2 compliance, and the other 2 being litigation. Next slide. So we set up the criteria, did the RFP, you have to be lawyers, law firms that have at least 25 attorneys. We wanted them to be able to be not too specialized, but have enough people to provide a broad array of services. They need to have at least 5 years' experience with the New York Managed Care Organization. We set up experience for 65% and cost at 35%. Next slide. We sent proposals out to 9 firms. We advertised in the city record. We received 5 proposals, did interviews, and we selected the 4. I will note that the evaluation committee included Metro Plus Legal, Metro Plus Compliance and Reg, and also H&H Legal. Andy, yourself being on the committee. I will note that MWE subcontracting goals were not set for this procurement. This matches what H&H Legal did when they solicited their round. By and large, law firms you don't really look to have law firms subcontract because you're hiring the law firms for their legal expertise. And they're also, to be frank, when we looked on the SPS list of certified MWEs, there really were none that were in the Medicaid managed care space. And so we're asking for the authorization for the 4 contracts, as said before.
Thank you. Any questions on this one? Okay, hearing none, let's take it up for the vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving to number 9. Thank you, Sally.
Good afternoon, Deborah Morris, Senior Director for Real Estate and Planning, New York City Health and Hospitals.
Jeremy Berman, Deputy Counsel.
For your consideration, authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to acquire Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., together with its subsidiaries and affiliates, the Maimonides entities, title to the parcels of real property together with their improvements listed in Schedule A, attached, the owned properties, pursuant to the affiliation and asset transfer agreement with the Maimonides entities, the ATA, for such consideration specified in the ATA with such acquisitions to be effective as of the closing of the ATA, and authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals to accept assignments by Maimonides entities of the leases to the real properties listed in Schedule B, attached, the leased properties, and to assume that from the Maimonides entities the liabilities under such leases, both pursuant to the ATA for such considerations specified in the ATA, such assignments and assumptions to be effective as of the closing of the ATA. Next slide. Maimonides Hospital System is composed of 2 major campuses, the Maimonides Hospital in Borough Park and Maimonides Community Hospital of Midwood, and over 50 off-campus clinical facilities across Brooklyn, as well as critical non-clinical facilities. Next slide. The Maimonides Medical Center campus, located in Borough Park, is housed in 41 buildings owned by Maimonides. A number of critical functions of the campus are also housed in leased properties, like the lab, IT, and ambulance layover space. Next slide. The Midwood campus is housed in, in the Maimonides main campus, there are a number of the critical functions leased within it, the lab, IT, parking, ambulance layover, warehousing, and storage. Next slide. Much smaller than the Borough Park campus is the Maimonides Midwood Community Hospital, which is housed in 3 buildings, 2 of which are owned and 1 of which is leased. The leased property includes communications equipment, storage space ancillary to the operation of ambulance services. Next slide. Outside of these 2 campuses, Maimonides offers neighborhood-based care in a variety of settings. Many of these are leased spaces for critical programs like the breast and cancer centers, the Bay Ridge Emergency Department, as well as many small clinics and doctors' offices. For your approval. And we're here with any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, then let me take it up for the vote. All in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Thank you. Let me move on to number, I think it's 10 and 11 together, right? So. Joanna and Jeremy, for Jeremy.
Jeremy, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, number 10. So the resolution is authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation as the sole member of H&H Maimonides Midwood Corporation to adopt the bylaws which are attached to the resolution as Exhibit A to be the bylaws of H&H Midwood, and New York City Health and Hospitals as the sole member of H&H Midwood selects and nominates as the members of the Board of Directors of H&H Midwood those individuals who currently serve as members of the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation Board of Directors, with each such individual to serve on the H&H Midwood Board in the same capacity and with the same board officer titles as they serve on the New York City Health and Hospitals Board. And furthermore, New York City Health and Hospitals as the sole member of H&H Midwood be deemed in the future to have selected and nominated as the members of the H&H Midwood Board such individuals who may from time to time be added to the New York City Hospitals Board and simultaneously be deemed to have withdrawn from selection and appointment to the H&H Midwood Board such individuals who are no longer members of the New York City Health and Hospitals Board, which actions by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., together with its subsidiaries and affiliates.
Number 11.
So we have no deck with that. So the resolution number 11 is the same, but for the other new subsidiary. So it reads, New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, as the sole member of H&H Maimonides Corporation, adopts the bylaws attached as Exhibit A to as the bylaws of H&H Maimonides Corporation. And New York City Health and Hospitals, as the sole member of H&H Maimonides Corporation, selects and nominates as the members of the Board of Directors of H&H Maimonides Corporation those individuals who currently serve as members of the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation Board, with each such individual to serve on the Health and Hospitals Maimonides Board in the same capacity and with the same board officer title as they serve on the New York City Health and Hospitals Board. And New York City Health and Hospitals, as the sole member of H&H Maimonides Corporation, be deemed in the future to have selected and nominated as the members of the Health and Hospitals Maimonides Corporation Board such individuals who may from time to time be added to the New York City Health and Hospitals Board and simultaneously be deemed to have withdrawn from selection and appointment to the Health and Hospitals Maimonides Corporation Board such individuals who are no longer members of the New York City Health and Hospitals Board, which actions by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., together with its subsidiaries and affiliates.
Jeremy, it's a lot of words. Would we agree that what these words mean is that this board becomes the governing body for H&H Midwood and the governing body for Maimonides Corporation, and that it is a mirror board such that we each serve in whatever capacity we currently serve, so as Jose serves as the chair, for example, because he serves as the chair for this board, and that we will all function in that way.
Exactly. And it also means that in the future, if there are changes in the composition of this board, they automatically get reflected in the composition of these two subsidiary boards. So we don't have to come back and have further action by the board to keep making those adjustments. So the mirror reflection remains exact.
Will there actually be board meetings scheduled?
Yes, but they could be scheduled, we could
They're ad hoc.
adjourn. You could, no, we could adjourn as one board and we could start as another board.
I see. I have a question on the committees.
Yes.
It says that there are 4 board committees, executive audit, QAPI, and finance, and that other matters would be handled by the H&H committees. So there will be separate committees established that actually have meetings, because I did look at the bylaws, and it says that the audit committee of the members shall serve as the audit committee of the corporation, but the other 3 are not like that. There are special duties for the other 3 committees.
Well, each individual Article 28 facility has to have its own QAPI committee, and so that's why that has to be distinct. You
And
make a
those
good point
executive
about
and
the.
finance are also.
Yeah, and the finance committee, because the funds flow for these 2 entities is so different for at least this, the next 5 years, is so different from the funds flow for the rest of H&H, we decided that it made sense to have a separate finance committee. An audit committee is a legal requirement that each not-for-profit have. We're adopting that structure for this public benefit corporation. Each corporation has to have its own audit committee. It's gonna be the same people serving as the audit committee.
I see.
so
So the
just
audit,
like-
it'll be mirror committees as
Mirror
well
committee.
to the-
Yes, yes,
Okay,
just like
but there
that.
may be separate meetings required.
Yeah.
for those committees.
But everything else will get handled centrally.
Mhm.
Strategic planning, things like that will get handled
Right.
by the member board.
And is the intention that each subsidiary will have its own audit, like a separate standalone audit?
Yeah, well, it will roll up into the,
John, do we want to ask finance? I assume it will all be part of one audit. She's asking if, yeah.
But audits typically, as in with Metro
component
Plus, right? I
parts,
mean,
yeah.
you can look at each component, they will
Then
look
just
at
rolled
it.
up, yeah.
But it will all roll up because you are the one governing body, right? So there are 2 subsidiaries, but there's really only one governing body meeting in separate as mirrors of itself in different ways.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one?
I was sort of unclear, like you said, it was so much stuff, I was getting confused. But anyway, it's good. Questions was asked and answered, but what I wasn't clear on, I think when you talked about, I guess if your time is up on H&H, I wasn't clear on.
Time would be up with the same.
Yes, exactly.
All the rules are exactly the same. The chairs are the same, the terms are the same, everything remains the same.
And you can only be a member of the subsidiary board because you are a member of the H&H board. So if you're no longer a member of the H&H board, automatically not a member of
C'est
the
la vie.
subsidiary. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't.
Maybe you get 2 parties.
Any other questions on this? Hearing none, then let me take it up for the vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Thank you so much. Let's move to number 12.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Brown, Senior Vice President and Chief External Affairs Officer. Resolution number 12 is sort of continuing in the trend started by Mr. Berman, which is to say we are substituting health and hospitals as the member for an organization. The difference in this one, and we'll get into it, is that this is a not-for-profit organization that is a subsidiary of Maimonides currently. It actually has a different board. It actually has a different board. I just wanted to set the table, and now I will read the resolution. New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation hereby accepts the role of the sole member of Brooklyn Communities Collaborative, a New York not-for-profit, in anticipation that BCC will adopt amended and restated bylaws, and which action by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closing of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18th, 2025, between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, together with its subsidiaries and affiliates. And New York City Health and Hospitals, in anticipation of BCC's adoption of amended and restated bylaws, and only upon the closing of the ATA, New York City Health and Hospitals, as the sole member of BCC, hereby appoints as an additional member of the Board of Directors, me, Deborah Brown, and New York City Health and Hospitals, in anticipation of BCC's adoption of amended and restated bylaws, and only upon the closing of the ATA, New York City Health and Hospitals, as the sole member of BCC, hereby appoints Sherry Sukoff to the position of Executive Director of BCC. All such actions by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon closing of the ATA. Again, a lot of words. What we're saying here is that there is an organization, Brooklyn Communities Collaborative, and I'll talk about that. We are substituting in as the sole corporate member. I will be, with your consent, I will be added to the board of BCC as the representative of H&H as the sole corporate member. Sherry Sukoff, who currently serves as the executive director, will maintain that position, again, with your approval. So let's get into it a little bit. And all of this is contingent upon two things. One is the current BCC board approving amended bylaws to facilitate this, and two, of course, is the closing of the ATA, the closing of our deal. Okay, Brooklyn Community Collaboratives, is a nonprofit organization promoting health equity in Brooklyn neighborhoods. Working across silos, BCC empowers community and engages partners to develop and implement innovative strategies that address complex systemic challenges. The way I think about it really is this is an organization that speaks to many of the social determinants of health, in terms of employment, in terms of neighborhood stability, certainly in terms of public health, and works together around those issues with so many members of the Brooklyn community. BCC is currently a sub of Maimonides with 9 board members, and MMC is the sole corporate member. BCC, and I apologize for the formatting, BCC advances its mission through research, through convening, through incubation, and it involves a network of nearly 100 community-based organizations. It is anchored by significant entities within Brooklyn, hospitals, universities, I believe the library. Okay. Next slide, please. It's an important network of community partners. It promotes, as I said, health equity, economic development, and civic engagement. And we believe that maintaining BCC, substituting H&H in as the sole corporate member, will continue and enhance our community relationships in the Maimonides area and beyond in Brooklyn. I am happy to take your questions.
You're going to retain the members that are currently there?
Yes.
Okay.
How are those members appointed in the future? Or
So
their terms and like how does that work?
there are provisions within what we hope will be the amended and adopted bylaws. I don't want to speak to them definitively because I want to be respectful of the fact, but we will have a role in that. And there's opportunities. There's 9 members right now. It's opportunities to go up to 15.
Okay. Any other questions on this? So hearing none, let me ask for a vote. Go ahead.
So my question is, you said the board would have to approve your position?
Hopefully not my position at H&H, but yes, I mean, to be appointed to be a part of this board on
Right, to be
behalf of Health and
appointed, okay.
Hospitals, yes.
Okay. Oh, you got my vote.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Basically it, yeah. Let me then ask for your vote then. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Both say no. Abstentions?
Thank you.
Let's move on to 13. Ted and Nicola.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to come and present today. I'll start with reading the resolution, then I'll contextualize and give a little bit of background. New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, NYC Health and Hospitals, accepts the role of sole member of Community Care of Brooklyn IPA, Inc., a New York not-for-profit corporation, CCB IPA, in anticipation that CCB IPA will adopt the amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation in the form attached as Exhibit A, the COI, and the amended and restated bylaws in the form attached as Exhibit B, the bylaws, both of which actions by NYC Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the Asset Transfer Agreement dated December 18th, 2025, the ATA, between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc. and its affiliates, Maimonides, and New York City Health and Hospitals in anticipation of CCB IPA's adoption of the COI and the bylaws, and only upon the closing of the ATA as the sole member of CCB IPA, appoints Alessandro Calvo Friedman, MD, as the member of the board of CCB IPA, and New York City Health and Hospitals in anticipation of CCB IPA's adoption of the COI and the bylaws, and only upon the closing of the ATA as the sole member of CCB IPA, recommends for the position of Chief Executive Officer of CCB IPA, Dr. Nicola Davis, MD. And all such actions by NYC Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the ATA. It gets easier as you get further down the resolution. So to give quick context and background here, an IPA is an entity that's comprised of physician practices or groups that can together collectively enter into a value-based care arrangement with, say, an insurer. An ACO, or an accountable care organization, is the version of that, but with the value-based care arrangements being with Medicare for Medicare patients. The distinction is important because we at Health and Hospitals have an ACO today. It's been a very successful ACO. We're the only ACO in New York State to have achieved shared savings, so the goal of the program, 12 years in a row. We're the only one in New York State. This IPA, which we're going to tell you more about in a moment, has a component, so a piece of it is an ACO, so it's their ACO, but it's wrapped up in the larger IPA structure, which Nicola is going to talk about in a moment. The reason we mention these points is that we view these as complementary things. Their ACO is only in Brooklyn. Our ACO is across all of New York City. And their ACO is part of their IPA, whereas ours is a standalone that's focused exclusively on Medicare patients. But we anticipate opportunities to learn together. We think that this is going to overall be complementary and strengthen both programs. So with that, we'll tell you a little bit more detail about their IPA structure to Dr. Davis.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Ted said, the IPA, it's an integrated network of health and social service partners that really primarily are servicing the Brooklyn communities. And it does include the Accountable Care Organization. So the IPA, it's currently a subsidiary of Maimonides, and it has an independent board of 8 members. So the total patient members that belong to the IPA is roughly about 78,000 patients or members. And this is across 6 hospitals, 4 FQHCs, about 500 PCPs, behavioral health providers, and about 100 participant organizations. The IPA has 6 value-based arrangements, and to date, they've generated about $40 million of shared savings for participants. Next slide, please. So the IPA has generated these significant shared savings, and we believe, as Dr. Long outlined, that it would be a complement to our H&H ACO as opposed to being a competitor to our ACO. And this is for the board's consideration.
Thank you.
Their ACO is only in Brooklyn, I think, right? But ours is all over the city. Is there any reason that we would try to consolidate sort of our Brooklyn efforts together, or it's better to just keep them separate?
I think it's a great question. I'll start and I'll turn to Dr. Davis. I think part of it is an early agreement with the premise of your question, which is the ACOs are powered by the work we do in primary care, in ambulatory care, and in our hospitals every day. So the work we do for our patients across Brooklyn would, affect both patients in the Maimonides ACO, but also, of course, our own ACO. And as we strengthen the care we're providing, we're going to be supporting both of the ACOs in that way. So I think we sort of don't view it as a patient either gets, this is all part of this ACO and that ACO, therefore they get something different, but rather we want to provide the best care, and that's reflected through the lens of the ACO and shared savings, which in our experience, we've had 12 years running. Going forward, there could be an opportunity to think about what it would look like to potentially combine our ACOs together. But our ACO has different community partners, as Nicole was saying. Theirs has their own community partners. Both ACOs have been effective and successful, so we don't want to immediately, without really understanding the respective ACOs and where they could complement each other, do anything out of the gates that would jeopardize the amazing work that they're already doing. Anything want to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, so let's take it up for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay, so resolution approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to number 14. Jeremy? 15, 16, no, 14.
Less words this time. This is authorizing the selection and appointment of Theodore Long, Hillary Jalon, Yvette Villanueva, and Linda DeHart to be members of the Board of Directors of MMC Affiliate Services, Inc., until the latter of the date their terms of appointment shall have expired or until their successors shall be elected. Such action by New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation's board to be effective only upon the closure of the asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, together with its affiliates and subsidiaries. So if I can explain, this is a particularly important mechanical part of the acquisition transaction that this all these resolutions concern. This takes an existing Maimonides Corporation, or Maimonides entity, changes its name. It will have changed its name prior to the closing to become the name we see here, MMC Affiliate Services, Inc., and that corporation will then be available to provide various transitional and administrative services to health and hospitals in its operation of the Maimonides health system. And by this resolution, we are adding to the board of directors of this newly named corporation representatives of New York City Health and Hospitals, so that we have some degree of control and visibility into the actions of this corporation, which is going to be playing an important role in providing the services that are necessary for the continued operation of the Maimonides health system. And so the rights of and interests of New York City Health and Hospitals in the operation of this corporation are, excuse me, supported by are supported by our membership on the board of directors, but also by the powers listed in Schedule A, which are reserved, which are powers reserved to the New York City Health and Hospitals directors, so as to more fully ensure that this subsidiary corporation, or I shouldn't say subsidiary, so that this corporation acts in the interests of health and hospitals in its management of the Maimonides health system.
I would just add to what Jeremy has said, that you'll note that these are four great individuals, but beyond that, they were specifically chosen because of the spheres they represent. Ted Long for the clinical operation, Hillary for the quality of the operation and the services, Yvette for her knowledge of HR, because this is mostly an HR function, and Linda for her knowledge of finance. And so we wanted to cover what we saw as the major roles that we would want this group to focus on.
Thanks. Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, let's take it up for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Then resolution approved. Thank you, Jeremy. Now we move to 15, 16, and 17.
Hi, good afternoon. I think John may just have stepped out for a minute.
Okay, you can go ahead
I
and
can start reading the
start
resolutions
reading
anyways.
He'll certainly be back in the next 50 minutes.
Hi, my name is Zhishen Yang. I'm currently the CFO at Lincoln Hospital. I am assisting John with the MIMO transition. So for the first one we have is so we have 3 agreements. The first one is the administrative service agreement. So authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a 10-year administrative services agreement with MMC Affiliates Service Inc., a New York non-for-profit corporation, by which MCAS will furnish NYC Health and Hospitals with the non-physician staff needed for the operation of the Maimonides Health Care System, and will perform certain administrative tasks necessary in such systems operation to be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources Inc., together its affiliates and subsidiaries, which shall not require payments to the MCAS in excess of $15.8 billion over the term, and such authorization shall not be effective until the closing of the ATA. The second one is the PSA, authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a 5-year medical professional services agreement with NYC Physicians PC, a New York professional services corporation by which the affiliate will furnish general healthcare and behavioral health services for H&H Maimonides Hospital and for H&H Maimonides Midwood Hospital, to be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between NYC Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources Inc., together with its affiliates and subsidiaries, which shall not require payments to the affiliate in excess of $2.5 billion over the term, and such authorization shall not be effective until the closing of the ATA. And the third one is the Transitional Services Agreement, authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a 2-year transitional services agreement with MMC Affiliates Service Inc., by which MCAS will continue in effect contracts for goods and services necessary for the operation of NYC Health and Hospitals Maimonides and NYC Health and Hospitals Maimonides Midwood that are impractical to immediately assign to NYC Health and Hospitals, with the TSA to be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18, 2025 between NYC Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources Inc., together with its affiliates and subsidiaries, which shall not require payments to MCAS in excess of $1.5 billion over the term, and such authorization shall not be effective until the closing of the ATA. That's less than the 15 minutes, and we have John back.
John, is it okay if I just jump on this slide for 1 second? Sure. On this slide, you'll see on the right the description of New York City physician practice as employing physicians and residents only. As we had discussed, the budget assumptions were developed assuming that to be the case. Some legal complications have come up with that, and we are in conversation with CIR about whether the residents will be employed there. But the budget is a maximum, as you know, the NT is a maximum, and it was developed with that assumption.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry I was a little late. I was in the restroom. I heard the laughter. I didn't know it was me, and I won't belabor the chart, but I think it is important to kind of just understand it when we start talking about, these different agreements. At the top is Health and Hospitals. On the right is the new PC, right? We've talked about how we're going to take the doctors from Maimonides and spin them up into their own organization. On the left-hand side is what Jeremy just talked about, is the MMC affiliate services. I look at that box as really that's the employees of Maimonides today, plus non-personal services, the other things, items, goods required to run the hospital. And then down below is the new H&H Maimonides in Midwood. the agreements that Shijin just, read in the resolutions. The first is the agreement. That is, in essence, I look at that as very similar or maybe the same as our relationship that we have with the other affiliates. This just agreement allows us to transact and pay those physicians on a cost basis, for their services. On the left-hand side, I'll stay on the chart. On the left-hand side, the administrative services agreement is just the vehicle by which we will pay the Maimonides employees, for services that they provide to health and hospitals. And then the temporary service agreement, that is, again, those are the goods, the contracts, linen, drugs, supplies, those contracts on, for the first year or two will rest with Maimonides proper, and then over time, when the opportunity presents itself, we will move those contracts under the auspices of health and hospitals. So that's, in essence, the structure that we're transacting on. And if you go to the next slide, I think I explained most of this, what is a TSA, a PSA, and the ASA. I don't much more there. And the next slide is the dollars. And these are, large, sums of money, but it's important to kind of look at this maybe perhaps from the context of when we were here, I think it was in November, explaining, with the help of Chartis, the fiscals associated with Maimonides over the 10-year period. The dollars from that analysis, the expenditures from that analysis are all incorporated into these estimates. And they look so large, starting with the ASA for $15.8 billion. It's because it's a 10-year contract. But again, the dollar values are consistent with the presentation, or generally consistent with the presentation that we had made before. The 10-year period was just, to show our, obviously commitment to Maimonides, and we thought a 10-year period was obviously sufficient for that. The 5-year period, moving on to the PSA, again, trying to be consistent, with our other affiliation agreements, and we picked a 5-year term. And as it relates to the TSA, we've been back and forth. Should it be a year? Should it be 2 years? It's the same dollar values. It's just where does it rest? Does it stay at Maimonides or move over to health and hospitals? Our goal is, again, when we find opportunities, better contract terms, whatever the situation might be, we're going to move those dollars from Maimonides to H&H proper. And I think that's our presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. On the TSA, I think just a clarification, the presentation says it's a 2-year contract. The resolution, I believe, still says 1, unless that got updated.
I think we had a typo there. I think it should read 2 years
Yep.
in the resolution.
We'll update that
Yeah,
if
our
it's not
apologies.
reflected yet. It
Yeah.
should be for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
And in the instance that you start to move the contracts more quickly, and then this just goes away, the not to exceed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all goes away. Again, it's
It's all
our,
the same dollar, it's just.
it's
where-
all the same dollars, right?
yeah.
I kind of look at this in terms of when does the opportunity present itself, and if we get better contract terms, which we hope to get because of our ability, our bargaining power, right? We'll go for those first contracts and move them over, and we'll keep doing that until, we get to the end. There's some dollars, there's some dollars in there for also retiring, certain contracts if we want to, retire those contracts earlier than the current contract terms, because it's a better opportunity, we have a better contract, we will do that out of the TSA.
And the other two are purely employment contracts, AT.
Employment, and we'll pay cost, right, similar to how we have,
On the affiliate.
yes.
Right. And the ASA is a little bit different because it's not the physicians, it's other.
It's all the non-physician personnel that will continue to be employed by MCAS.
Right, but also only employment. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's take it up for a vote on these are on all the 3 different agreements, 15,
Jose,
16.
just to make sure that they adjust the resolution, so amended.
I heard Colicia has it.
Yeah.
She's got it.
Here,
Okay, so that's what we're voting on.
the agenda we have is correct, and the one he read was 2 years.
Okay.
So it's 15, 16, and 17 on your agenda. And so all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. So Any abstentions? So the resolutions are approved. Thank you. Let's move on to
Dr. Techie.
Dr. Techie. You have 218 and 19.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Techie, Chief Medical Officer for Clinical Affairs and Business Strategy.
Good afternoon, I'm Joseph Frias, Assistant Vice President for Credentialing.
We are here today to ask the board to consider two resolutions. The first is approving the appointment of those practitioners identified on Schedule A attached here to Maimonides Midwood Community Hospital's medical staff, which approval by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18th, 2025, the ATA, between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., together with its affiliates and subsidiaries. And also resolution number 19, approving the appointment of those practitioners identified on Schedule A attached here to Maimonides Medical Center's medical staff, which approval by New York City Health and Hospitals shall be effective only upon the closure of the affiliation and asset transfer agreement dated December 18th, 2025, between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, together with its affiliates and subsidiaries. Next slide, please. Thank you. Introduction and background on this topic. Upon close of the transaction, New York City Health and Hospitals will be the co-established operator of H&H Maimonides and H&H Midwood. The New York City Health and Hospitals Board will be the board of H&H Maimonides and H&H Midwood and have all responsibilities it has for all other H&H hospitals, including the granting of medical staff membership and privileges. Due to the transaction resulting in a change in operator and to maintain care continuity and ensure patient safety, all practitioners currently appointed by Maimonides, MMC, and Midwood, MMCH, need to be reappointed to the new facilities. The New York City Health and Hospitals Board is being asked to batch approve the credentialing and privileges of the legacy entity practitioners at MMC and MMCH employed by the new entities. A credentialing due diligence was conducted with the assistance of attorneys, consultants, and H&H's own internal experts of the Maimonides and Midwood credentialing and privileging processes to verify critical compliance requirements and flag key considerations for the board. Non-compliance related process improvement and integration items between the entities will be conducted after the close of the transaction at a later time. Next slide. So, in summary, we are asking for the two resolutions. Number 18, approving the appointment of these practitioners. Okay, thank you. Great.
So 18 and 19, appointment of practitioners. So let's vote on those. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Those are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to number 20. Andy? 20.
I can do it from here.
Sure.
Nobody minds. So this is a resolution to waive certain conditions to closing of the transaction that's the subject of the ATA between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., and its subsidiaries and affiliates, the Maimonides entities, which have not been fulfilled or we do not anticipate will be fulfilled before closing, provided that we will continue to seek to close that transaction contingent on the satisfaction of the other closing conditions. Seeking your approval to waive certain closing conditions. So the terms of the ATA require that certain conditions and obligations be met or fulfilled by the close of the transaction. Some of them are Health and Hospitals obligations, some of them are Maimonides obligations, some are just conditions that must exist. H&H can refuse to close if those conditions are not fulfilled. Nonetheless, we understand that New York City Health and Hospitals and the board gets to weigh in on whether it desires to move forward with the closing of the transaction, notwithstanding that certain of these conditions that we're about to go through are unlikely to be completed by closing. Next slide, please. These conditions, if you determine that you want to continue closed despite these conditions, it's because you've determined that while they are desirable, they're not so essential to the transaction that they should hold up the close, and that it is in the overall best interest of New York City Health and Hospitals to waive them. The resolution for consideration would waive these contractual conditions that are in the ATA. The execution of the Safety Net Transformation Program grant agreements, the satisfactory resolution of certain matters disclosed during due diligence, the unwind of the M2 Medical Community Practice PC, and the assignment of all contracts and leases. I'm going to spend a second on each one of them. The Safety Net Transformation Program grant agreements are the grant agreements coming from the State Department of Health. They are in the process of being negotiated and executed, but we understand because of procurement processes at the state where they need certain reviews by other government agencies on the exact wording before they are finalized, that if the close happens within the next 60 days or so, it may be difficult to ensure that those are fully executed. The second one is that there were certain matters disclosed during due diligence, and we said that those matters had to be concluded to our satisfaction prior to close. Those matters are complex and continuing and cannot be concluded before the close of the transaction. The unwind of the M2 Medical Community Practice PC, that is a PC connected to Maimonides that we have elected not to bring over to Health and Hospitals. It's a set of assets that we don't want to bring over to Health and Hospitals. We had asked that they fully unwind that before close, because the period before close is quite short, and it is a complex operation that was up and running. It is not possible for them to fully unwind it before close, assuming close happens in the next sort of like near-term period, but we are anticipating and demanding a plan for the unwind as soon as close happens from Maimonides. So we're not changing our position. We're not bringing the assets and liabilities over. It's just that the unwind will occur post-close in all likelihood. And the last condition is that not all contracts and leases are able to be assigned from Maimonides to Health and Hospitals before close. That's a complicated paper process involving hundreds and maybe thousands of vendors and landlords. So that process is ongoing, but it is unlikely to be complete before closing. The reason you can feel comfortable, if you do, with that waiving that condition is that we have the transition services agreement, which would allow us to access things like the services from a contract or access the space under a lease with a landlord during that period while people are trying to finish the paperwork of moving it over to Health and Hospitals. And there's the resolution to waive those conditions, and I'm happy to take questions. Yes.
I have two of them, questions on 2 points. The unwind of the M2 Medical Community Practice, that is, I might have missed, we just don't want that to exist, or we're taking...
We're taking no position on whether it should exist. It's a model that we don't use at Health and Hospitals. It's a complex set of sort of relationships among physician practices, Maimonides, MSO management services providers, billing. It's complicated. It's not the way we typically do things, and we determined that we did not want to bring it over. What happens to it? Maimonides doesn't really have an ability to keep it itself afloat. And Tim, I may call a friend, phone a friend in the back row if I don't get this right, or if you want to add anything. So it's not, we have we have nothing against the M2C PC. We don't want it. Maimonides probably can't maintain it independently, and we are therefore asking them to commit to unwind. Tim, any additional points you'd want to make?
The only other thing I'd add is some of the physicians will come over.
Yes, oh yes, sorry, thank you. Thanks, Tim. Yes. Tim, will you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Tim McChrystal from Ropes and Gray. The only point I'd add is some of the physicians that participate
Yes.
in this organization now will come over in traditional arrangements that you have with your physicians. So they're coming on. So some are coming on board.
Like with the PC or something in the PC.
Yes, exactly. And some of the leases will be coming over in the same way. So if they work in a practice with the lease, we will just change the contractual relationship to make it more appropriate to how we intend to operate things.
And so if we close this transaction and this still exists, what's the ramification of that to us?
The ramification is that basically the costs of if they unwind, the costs of unwind, ultimately, we will still have to bear those costs, but we would have borne them
Either way.
really before or after, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that, anything else you want to add?
The second is on the Safety Net Transformation Program grant. So just are there any concerns in any of your conversations that you've had that there might be problems from any of you said there were some other review parties and things like that?
I'll do it because I've had most of the contact with the state. No. It's just that this is a granting mechanism that they have not used before. And so they weren't aware of the controller steps that are necessary. They're 100% committed to this. The money is actually in a separate account that was actually created by the legislature, so we can actually see the money, right? So we don't anticipate any problem at all, and they have been good partners on this throughout.
And then just the draft contract, have you seen anything that stands out there concern?
We've seen minor wording things that but no policy issues. So, it's a complex contract, as you might imagine, and we're currently resolving some wording, but there are no differences in policy, no differences in desires.
Right, we had mentioned before, you're aware that there are things in there that we of course would prefer not to have in there, things like that the state can cancel the grant. That is a true fact. I think it is in every single state sort of contract or grant that is out there. So we've had conversations about that. Those are unlikely to go. So it's not that we love everything in there, but there's nothing in there that I think as a management level that we have said is a go or no go kind of an issue.
Right, in particular, that the fact that we don't have it before closing or after is not of concern.
I mean, it is, we'd prefer to have it executed, but on the other hand, since it can be canceled for convenience.
Yes. The other is that if we do close and it isn't executed yet, what about if we start needing the funds under the?
They've made it clear that the funds can flow at any time and would flow at the time that it goes forward, that regardless of whether that there's a transaction. As we've talked this before, the state has a variety of ways of funding hospitals, and this is a partnership, right? We are helping them. They want this to succeed. They don't want it to fail, right? So they are very motivated to do this in the correct way.
Thank you.
Okay, so number 20, let me take it up for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Abstentions? Thank you. So resolution approved. 21, thank you, Andy.
Hi, I'm Philip Wadley. I'm a Deputy Executive Director at South Brooklyn Health right now, but helping with a lot of the integration. I'll let Lee introduce himself.
Good afternoon, Board. Lee Fiebert, Deputy Chief for Business Operations.
I will read in the resolution authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to accept assignment from Maimonides Health Resources, Inc., or one of its subsidiaries or affiliates, certain contracts for the provision of goods and services by third-party vendors that are necessary for the continued operations of the Maimonides entities, healthcare operations by New York City Health and Hospitals, pursuant to the affiliation and asset transfer agreement between New York City Health and Hospitals and Maimonides entities, such assignments to be effective no sooner than the closing of the ATA. Okay, so lots of word on the page. In short, the ATA authorizes us to assume assets, liabilities, all the operations and sort of finances of Maimonides today. That includes a number of contracts held at both Maimonides itself and Midwood and a couple of other subsidiaries that we've talked about earlier today. And instead of bringing all of those over at close, like John talked about, the TSA exists to allow us to leave them at what is now called, was going to be called MCAS, for a period of time so that they can continue operations at these two facilities and other locations. And we are able to do further diligence and review of those contracts to make the decision to assign those to H&H in the future. That assignment would make us responsible for that contract directly. And we have the opportunity to also say we don't want to assign that contract, and we could assume responsibility for those goods and services under contracts that already exist at health and hospitals. Acceptance of assignment is not a procurement, so it does not apply in the same way other procurements would under 100-5. Should any of the contracts expire while we're working through this process, or a new contract needs to be created, they would go through the H&H procurement process and come to you under 100-5 moving forward. But that is the sort of gist of what we're looking to have you guys approve. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Then let's take it up for a vote. Number 21. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Resolution. Let's move to the committee and subsidiary reports were emailed to you and on your electronic folders for your review and submission into the record. Any questions about those? And I should have done the president's report first, so.
Fine,
Dr. Katz?
no problem. We've had a long and very productive afternoon together, so I'm going to allow you to read the president's report at your leisure. But it is important that I read into the record 3 contract deviations that I approved this past month. The first deviation is in regards to emergency procurement for elevator modernization services at Bellevue and Lincoln. The specific elevators at Bellevue were originally installed in 1968. They have experienced persistent and recurring mechanical and electrical failures, frequently resulting in prolonged outages. Scope of work is currently estimated at $880,000, inclusive of a 20% contingency. At Lincoln Hospital, 2 elevators are well past their lifespan. One is inoperable and requires significant repair. The scope of the work is currently estimated at $1,231,000, which includes a 10% contingency. The final deviation is an increase in the not-to-succeed amount for the healthcare system's Epic contract. This is necessary as we begin to extend the electronic health record to Maimonides Medical Center and Maimonides Midwood Community Hospital. This requires increase in our NTE contract by $6 million for a new total NTE of $308,807,986. That's my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, is there any new business from board members to come before this board? Hearing none, the board meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
This meeting is no longer being recorded. This meeting is being transcribed and summarized.